The Epstein files, they said they were going to come out. They're not coming out, or they're coming out, but they're heavily redacted. 500 pages in the Epstein files were entirely blacked out. It's very obvious to everyone that Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence agent that was working on behalf of Israel and the United States to a degree. But this is why the files are not coming out. They're not. It's not because Trump is protecting billionaire friends that he's never cared about. He's not falling on the sword for his friends. That's not the Trump we know and love. The Trump we know and love is throwing people in front of a car so that he doesn't get hit. That's why people in this country elected him. That's the character of an American. The character of an American is someone who throws their wife in front of a fire to give themselves another few minutes to get out of the house. That's because America is about survival. It's about survival. It's not an emotional country. Like, we're all psychotic, but it's not an like when people call me a nihilistic sociopath, like they do all the time in the press, I'm simply telling people what it is, and no one wants to hear it. So they get all angry. The idea that this is like a deeply spiritual country of loving people, it's like psychotic to believe that. Can you imagine believing that? That this country is full of heroic people, heroes just walking around every day, giving of themselves for their communities and families? That you couldn't convince someone of that. You couldn't convince Nick Reiner of that on whatever the hell he was on. So this idea that Donald Trump is falling on a sword for other billionaires that he doesn't want to be that he doesn't want them to be seen in a bad light doesn't make any sense. Let's throw that explanation out. Okay? Explanation number 2. The Kash Patel explanation. There's nothing there. There's thousands of pages of documents that have been redacted by the CIA and the FBI, but none of them say anything because nothing even happened. Remember, that was how this all started. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, the Keystone cops, were like, this thing's not even real. So, like, what? It's a hoax. It's fake. It's been grossly exaggerated, and none of it. He was a pervert and a freak, but there was no accomplices. He didn't do anything. They said that. There were no accomplices. There's 15 pictures out right now of Bill Clinton, Michael Jackson, and this guy windsurfing or whatever. And apparently this guy, nothing was ever happening or going on because this was just like a weird rich guy, a weird pervert. And, by the way, it's funny you see these photos. This is the only time you've ever seen any of these people having fun. So that was explanation number 2, why they're not coming out. Explanation number 3, which I find more plausible because I have gotten rid of explanation 1 and 2. And to review, explanation 1, Donald Trump feels really bad for like other people and wants to protect their image. That was explanation number 1. That like Donald Trump is like hung up on the idea that like a buddy or two of his might go down here. And he's like, that like bums him out. So he's like going to fall on the sword and, basically like take the heat for other people in an act of selflessness. He was going to throw himself in front of the bus because other people might be inconvenienced by this, to say the least. Explanation number 2, none of this ever happened. None of these people ever did anything wrong. There was no trafficking ring. There were no accomplices. Nothing even happened. Now, that was explanation 2 given to you by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That was their response. Remember, that was option 2 given to you by who? Your aunt? No, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, option 3, a reason that many people don't think it's coming out, is because Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intelligence agencies in Israel, America. Maybe he was working with the Brits, maybe the French, maybe he got around. And what he was doing was he was a conduit between powerful people, people that were current government officials, former government officials, corporate leaders, whatever. The jet set, as they call them. And Jeffrey Epstein was finding ways for all of these people to make money whilst blackmailing them and videotaping their liaisons with underage people, their illegal, immoral, disgusting, evil acts, and then keeping the tapes or selling them to the highest bidder or using them as leverage or whatever the case may be. But that would require, option 3 would require like a pretty big public fallout when and if that information became public, that our own government or an allied government was blackmailing people. And when I say our government, I mean factions. I don't mean everybody. I don't mean your aunt who's the comptroller in New Jersey. I mean deeply powerful factions of our intelligence community blackmailing congressmen, senators, presidents, prime ministers. Okay? Morgan & Morgan's a law firm. Did you slip on the butter that was left out? You're eating French fries at the beach and you want to take a quick dip in the ocean. You put a seagull on watch. That's not security. It's catering for the seagull. I've read that so many times. I have no idea what that means. There's a reason you wouldn't trust a seagull with your fries, just like there's a reason you wouldn't trust insurance companies with your case. Oh, I get it now. Because when people show up, whether it's for help or answers or justice, they deserve somebody who's actually on their side. Hire Morgan & Morgan. I love these guys. They've been working for over 35 years, 1,000 lawyers, 100 offices nationwide. Hiring Morgan & Morgan is like hiring an army that has your back. If you're injured by somebody else's negligence, you deserve to be paid. And here's the truth. Not all law firms are the same. Hire the wrong one and you may be beat before you even start. If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Here's my favorite thing about Morgan & Morgan. Their fees free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/Tim. That's forthepeople.com/TIM. This is a paid advertisement. I cannot get enough of NeuroGum. Ever feel like you're running on empty, staring at your screen, hitting that afternoon crash, and debating another coffee or energy drink? Enter NeuroGum and Mints. Neuro's Energy and Focus Gum and Mints give you clean, focused energy without the crash sugar or sketchy ingredients. It's time to switch to good energy. It's the easiest upgrade I made to my wellness and energy routine. Here's what I made the energy switch. Personal story. This is a personal story of mine. I took the gum because I wanted more energy, and it's been great. Neuro also offers caffeine-free options for your all-day wellness support. Neuro's memory and focus gum are made with American ginseng, not that foreign ginseng. American ginseng to support mental clarity minus the jitters. Neuro's sleep and recharge mints offer melatonin and chamomile to help you unwind and rest without the pills or the sugary gummies. For limited time, you can get 20% off your first order at neurogum.com. Use promo code TIM. That's neurogum.com and use code TIM for 20% off your first order. You can also find Neuro at CVS and Amazon. So that seems to be option 3 of why it hasn't come out. Like, for example, you don't really have to know much about anything to know right now that it seems very likely, and I've talked to smart people who believe that there's kind of a civil war within our intelligence community in America. One faction of our, and by the way, there's multiple factions in the intelligence community. It's not like one and then another and then that's it. But I'm going to talk about one of the divides that I have talked to smart people about. One of the divides is between a group of people in the intelligence community who believe we should get out of the Middle East. We should not support Israel in attacking Iran. We should divest from Russia and Ukraine, and we should prepare to fight China. There are people in the national security establishment who believe that. This guy Briggs Colby, who you could bring him up. I want to say he works at the Department of Defense. I don't exactly know the position offhand. He's one of the people whom advocates that point of view, that we need to position ourselves for a, potentially inevitable conflict on some level with China. And that getting bogged down with Russia or the Middle East, these kind of endless foreign wars, regime change wars, you'd also put like Tulsi Gabbard in that group, even though I'm disappointed with Tulsi about a lot of shit. Not that I don't like Tulsi Gabbard or that I don't think she's good at tough mutters, and I like people from Hawaii or whatever, whatever she does. I like that. But I'm a little disappointed by the fact that, I don't know, they gaslit people, and they continue to do so. When she came out and was like, yeah, well, these people are doing this. Say their names. What are you, what are we, stupid? There's something going on because Joe Kent came out and asked Kash Patel, I want to look into potential foreign intelligence in the Kirk assassination. And Kash Patel's like, fuck you. You're not getting any of these files. And so you have Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Kent kind of on one side of this going, I want to look at foreign intelligence, whatever happened or didn't happen. We just want to see the files. Kash Patel's like, it's an ongoing investigation. You cannot see the files, and fuck you. So right there is a public rift of that war that I'm talking about, that kind of, underground conflict between factions in our intelligence community. You have the FBI, you have Kash Patel, you have the Bureau going, don't compromise our investigation. You have Joe Kent going, we want to know about what happened with the oversight here. So here is this Colby, Pentagon policy chief's rogue decisions have irked U.S. allies in the Trump administration. This is a political hit piece, right? So this is a political hit piece, okay? And this was written in July, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So this is a faction of people. And this guy is, again, not like the highest level guy, but he's pretty high level. And does it say exactly what his position is?
I think there's a part here about his position on Ukraine.
No, his position in the Defense Department.
Oh. I think he might be like the undersecretary.
Yeah, he might be undersecretary. I believe that's what he is. Since joining the second Trump administration as the Pentagon's top policy chief. Okay. So that's a faction. Okay. That's clearly not the only faction. There's another faction that wants more interventions, that believes that the power vacuum in the Middle East gets filled by China and Russia. And that faction of people is more aligned with neoconservative people in those departments. And they want Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio And the Colby faction wants J.D. Vance. And the Tucker faction, Colby, not that Tucker's the CIA, but Tucker clearly has a preference for Vance and for that foreign policy position prevailing, that we should not be embroiled in the Middle East. Although he does like Qatar, he doesn't, because we're not fighting wars. He would say we're not fighting wars on behalf of Qatar. Those are factions. Get up the Joe Kent stuff with Tulsi and Kash Patel. These are different factions that are fighting for control of whatever comes after Trump. And this is kind of it's a conflict that smart people know about. And I'm not saying if you know about it, if you don't know about it, you're not smart. I'm just saying, like, whatever. You're not reading, you have a life, right? So you're like, have a family and a job. So you're not reading all this crap that I read and you're talking to these crazy people. It's all I do all day is talk to crazy people. They're interesting to a degree, but they're insane. And, they have very interesting positions all over, in media and government or whatever. And they're interesting and they're nuts and they believe X or Y or Z. And you really don't know who's who or who works for who or why anyone believes anything and who's getting paid and whatever. It's an odd world. But these are the factions that are lining up. And it's all about control of money and control of power and who gets their friends in, who gets their people in, who's able to go in with their crew and staff all of these agencies and try, because again, these agencies are not always going to be responsive to the incoming administration. And they've been trying to fire that guy forever, by the way. A lot of people want that guy fired. That's why Politico wrote that hit piece. He tried to, stop arms shipments to Ukraine. His position on this stuff's kind of known. But a lot of people don't want that guy in. Counterterrorism nominee Joe Kent, under scrutiny as emails show he pushed for edits to intelligence assessment. Okay, this is not, but here, just to show you who he is. Emails obtained by CBS News show Joe Kent, who currently serves to the Chief of Staff to Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. So that's what he does, okay? He is the Chief of Staff to Director Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, whatever. It's kind of a fake job. They're trying to do the best that they can, I guess, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. But he asked Kash Patel to see the files that they had on the Charlie Kirk case. And the request was flat out denied. They're like, no, we're not going to show you what we have. It's an ongoing investigation. Now, I don't know why it's ongoing. I thought they got the guy, and I don't know why he's I don't know why anyone's talking about foreign intelligence with this assassination. Again, I'm confused. So, but that's, again, just an example of, officials' access to FBI files in Charlie Kirk case drew pushback. An inquiry by Joe Kent, who leads the National Counterterrorism Center, is said to have alarmed Kash Patel, the FBI director. They don't want him poking around. This is not completely unprecedented and rare. The FBI does not like that there are other agencies that have oversight. The inquiry by Joe Kent, the director of the Counterterrorism Center, alarmed Kash Patel, the director of the FBI. Mr. Patel and other senior officials believe Mr. Kent was overstepping, treading on FBI responsibilities, and potentially interfering with the investigation and prosecution of Tyler Robinson. But supporters of Mr. Kent say he was doing his job running down leads and making sure no foreign or domestic groups were linked to Mr. Kirk's death. So you see the little schisms happening. We had a very weird shooting at MIT, a weird shooting at Brown, horrible shooting at Brown, horrible that anyone loses their life ever in a horrible way like that. A young woman, 2 people at Brown.
Yeah, 2 people.
2 people at Brown. And then a nuclear fusion scientist, something like that, right?
Yes, from MIT.
From MIT. And the same guy killed all of them and then killed himself in a storage shed. Let's listen to a little bit of this. Again, this is probably something that will disappear from the news in a day. And no one will ever know what happened. But it's fucking weird. It's a little weird that a guy walked onto the campus of Brown, shot these two people, and then shot a guy from MIT, and they killed himself in a storage shed. Let's hear a little bit of this.
Two shootings at two major schools in the Northeast, and police now say they could be connected. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. We begin with that breaking news. Multiple sources briefed on the investigation, telling ABC News the mass shooting at Brown University and the murder of an MIT professor in Massachusetts may be linked. Let's bring in our Christian Cordero there on the scene in Providence, Rhode Island. Also, our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Kotursky, plus our contributor and former NYPD chief of detectives, Robert Boyce. So, Aaron, what do we know now?
Law enforcement sources tell ABC News, Kira, that the shooting at Brown University that killed two students may, in fact, be connected to the shooting death, the apparent murder of MIT professor Nuno Lolero, who was shot and killed in the foyer of his Brookline home on Monday night, pronounced dead on Tuesday morning at the hospital. At first, the FBI said there was no known connection, but in the last 24 hours, sources told ABC News that the investigative teams on both the cases began to compare notes, and information started to gel that the two shooting incidents may in fact be connected. The authorities have not said this publicly, but this is what we're hearing now from multiple law enforcement sources. We also understand that authorities may be close to naming a suspect.
So we have the suspect.
Yeah.
We have the guy that did this. He's dead, and he killed himself in a storage shed. What's his name? I don't know why nothing seems to make sense anymore, and I don't want to sound like a nut. And I'm not saying and alleging that everything's a lie all the time. But it is just odd that, like, crimes used to have motives. You know, when I grew up, crimes had motives. Like, somebody would do something and there would be a tangible reason as to why that person did it. And the news media would doggedly try to find out why the person did the crime. And now that's kind of less of a thing. Now it's like Clue. It's like a weird thing of Clue where they're like, he killed someone in the meat locker with the hair dryer. And you go, okay. And he's like, well, he shot somebody in the frozen foods aisle with, the bazooka. And you go, oh, okay, but why? Well, we don't know. Right. Well, he had a samurai sword and he was in the phone booth and he cut the guy's head off. But nobody really knows why. A Reddit post from a homeless man at Brown University helped investigators find the mass shooter. Well, thank God. Thank God that, by the way, this is Kash Patel's FBI. It is now come down to a Reddit post from a homeless person. So if you're killed in this country, you better hope that a vagrant tweets about it so that Kash Patel can find out. You hope they tweet at FBI director, at Kash, I just killed someone. Literally, Reddit pages where homeless people post are the only people doing any investigations in this country. Them and Candace Owens. Let's watch this.
This was just them, like, searching for the snow for footprints.
Oh, good. Look at this. Look at the FBI searching for footprints in the snow. This is the biggest joke. I mean, they're doing a dance. These people are doing a dance. They're doing a ceremonial dance because they just did a human sacrifice. Who was the guy that got shot at MIT? Who was that guy?
His name is Nuno Lolero.
And what did he do? He was a scientist, right?
He was a nuclear fusion researcher.
He was a nuclear fusion scientist. And now Trump just signed a deal with a fusion company. like today.
Yeah.
And there was a guy on the board of that company, I think, who knew this guy. Why is Truth Social owner merging with why is Truth Social owner Trump Media merging with a fusion energy firm? So on a day after this guy gets whacked, Trump Media and Technology Group, owner of Donald Trump's Truth Social media platform, announced a merger on Wednesday with a company developing fusion energy technology. Interesting. Fun. And this guy who was a fusion scientist gets whacked the day before. Again, I'm not saying there's anything there. It's just fun to note. Who is the suspect? Go back to that. So a Reddit thread posted by a homeless guy. You don't think of the homeless on Reddit, but I imagine many of them are. Let's read this here. Is there, yeah. Police are probably going to sift through a lot more Reddit posts in the future. One of those online posts played a big role in helping investigators find the suspect who killed two students in Brown. Remember, Kash Patel, they said they had the guy, they used geolocation, whatever, they traced his phone, and then they had to let him go. This is what they do over there at the FBI. They find someone, and then they announce to the public, they're like, we've used geolocation to find and then they have to let them go. Great. The 48-year-old suspect, Claudio Neves Valente, was found dead in a New Hampshire storage facility Thursday night. Authorities say he killed Brown University students, Mohammed Aziz Umerkazov and Ella Cook, and then murdered MIT professor Nuno Loriero. It took investigators a long time to ID the suspect after the mass shooting Saturday night in Providence, followed by the assassination of the professor Monday night. Then on Tuesday, authorities received a tip from an anonymous source about a Reddit post on the Providence subreddit, according to the affidavit. The Reddit poster, a homeless man, claimed that he saw the suspected shooter walking in the area of the Brown University mass shooting. Quote, I'm being dead serious, reads the Reddit post. The police need to look into a gray Nissan with Florida plates, possibly a rental. That was the car he was driving. So Kash Patel and the FBI are now relying on the homeless to solve the crimes. No. Folks, they're relying on the homeless. The reason the Epstein list isn't out is because the homeless haven't gotten involved. This is why Kash Patel didn't realize that there was a human trafficking ring that Epstein was running because a homeless guy hadn't posted about it on Reddit. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is now depending on the homeless in the country. Up until that point in the investigation, police had not released any videos with a gray Nissan or vehicle with Florida plates based on the tip. So basically, the homeless are doing a better job than Kash Patel's FBI. And Kash Patel, by the way, while this is all happening, is on a podcast with his girlfriend. He's on a podcast with his girlfriend. Okay? Dan Bongino just left the FBI to come back to podcasting. Welcome back, brother. Who predicted that a year ago? The guy that didn't get invited to Conan's party, that guy. Bongino's coming back to a place where he can make a goddamn difference. The desk. Come back to the podcast world. We can make change here. It's not like the fucking feds. Can we watch a little bit of this abortion? Can you? This is the director, folks. This is the. I'm going to campaign for AOC. I will campaign for Mom Donnie. I am putting the burqa on. This is the campaign. I'm sorry. This is the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This girl in Brown University was shot in her face and tragically lost her life. And I'm not even kidding anymore. She tragically lost her life. She was shot in the head, okay? This fool with his girlfriend is on a fucking podcast. Katie Miller, Stephen Miller's wife. This isn't even a high-rated podcast. This isn't even a big one, okay? This isn't even a big fucking This ain't Call Her Daddy. This is some dumb shit. This is not even worth it. They don't even get good views. Let's watch a little bit of this. Disgusting.
On a personal level, of course, I wish we didn't have to deal with the attacks. Like, she should be out there touring, and
She should be out there touring. Call AOC. I'm giving her money. I swear to God. And I was never even, listen, I was never a huge fan of this guy because I didn't know much about him. And it felt weird. It all felt weird. And now it's fucking insane. But I am donating money to, I mean, it's just, this is couldn't have, I mean, it's just, it's good for my show and it's good for the podcast world, which is why Dan Bongino, I think, is coming back to us. Because truly that's what this is good for, is like, it's fodder. But what an embarrassment for the country. She should be out touring. We don't like the attacks. She should be out touring. There's a girl at Brown University that's shot in the face. Fire him. Fire him. Are you people fucking nuts? You're up at Turning Point USA, arguing with each other, calling each other fucking feds or whatever, and this guy who's a legitimate fed is saying his girlfriend should be touring while someone got shot in the face, and they don't have the person who did it, and he's deciding to go on a podcast. It's a bad reality show. It's fucking terrible. Here, let's go.
stage, as she always